Hey, welcome to the next episode of Twin Tiers Keto. This is Chris Taylor. I'm talking to you today about a couple questions that have been asked on the Facebook group. The first question came from Mohit, who wanted to know how we can fight cravings, especially early on in our journey through keto. And it's a really tough question because there's a lot of factors involved. One is that we are addicted to carbohydrates and sugars. And like any addiction, it takes time and effort to break. So you're going to have to deal with some level of these cravings for a period of time. Now, what I have found in my own life is that if I go ahead and cut all sweeteners out, so I don't do any artificial sweeteners, no stevia, I actually see a rapid decline in the cravings. But as soon as I put those back in, or if I start introducing fruit, like berries, back into the diet, then the cravings will come right back. So it's something I have to be very, very careful of. I've seen the same thing, with any kind of carbohydrate. So whether it's a fried food that's breaded, any kind of rice like a biryani, I have to fight off cravings for a period of time and almost fast from the sweeteners for a while. I did it for the month of February of no sweeteners for the whole month. So I did that. I also did no dairy and no nuts for that month. And it was an interesting experiment. I got some pretty good information. Not only did I see a decline in my cravings, but I saw a decline in my hunger levels overall, which was actually pretty good. I would eat breakfast, but not lunch, and then I'd eat a good dinner. I was trying to get my 5,000 steps in according, to my watch, just for those health benefits, but no other real exercise, just, my normal kind of work routine, where I am, sitting at the computer most of the time. And I didn't see any weight gain, I didn't see any weight loss, but in general I felt better. And my ketone levels were higher, my blood sugar levels in the morning were much lower, which brings me to something that I've been researching a little bit. I started listening to an audio book today called Grain Brain. It's by a neurologist named Dr. David Perlmutter. And he's been studying, cognitive and mental and neurological dysfunctions. And as he goes through these studies, he finds that there's always some sort of inflammation involved, and a lot of times that inflammation is from excessive carbohydrates, in particular. So even though normally when your body's inflamed, you feel some pain. But when you don't have pain receptors in your brain, so if your brain is inflamed, you don't have any symptoms for that. And so they've been finding out more and more, that a lot of these issues, chronic issues that are plaguing society right now, are related to inflammation. So when I saw my blood sugars come down and my hunger decrease, that was a sign to me, actually, that the inflammation in my body was coming down as well, which is something really good to know. Now, because I was doing three things, sweeteners, nuts, and dairy, I can't tell you for sure which it was or if there was a combination of things that really played a part in that. So for right now, um, but I added dairy. So I do have some cheese and I do have some butter. Now I'm traveling this week, so I don't have access to butter. The hotel I'm staying at doesn't have free breakfast, and so I'll be having just my coffee in the morning with MCT oil, and that'll be fine. I've got protein bars I can take with me to the conference, so I'm not worried about that, and I'll have a good dinner in the evening. But I am going to try, and limit the amount of dairy or amount of cheese that I have to try and keep that inflammation low and see if I can get my blood sugars to come back down. Because so far in the month of March, since I've reintroduced the dairy and the sweeteners, I'm still not doing a whole lot of nuts, but since I've reintroduced the dairy and the sweeteners, I have seen my morning blood sugars going back up. Now, some of that could also be due to the exercising I'm doing now. So for the month of March, I have committed to actually a 10-week program of weightlifting. And, I do feel, the soreness in my arms and my legs and my shoulders and my back, as I'm working. So there is inflammation there. So I can't really tell you for sure whether that's playing a part into it either. Normally, if you're going to experiment, you need to keep everything the same and only change one thing. And I'm not real good at that right now. That's something I need to get better at. But going through that exercise, though, is something that helps me. I like to learn what makes me tick. And it's an interesting experience. So the real answer, to the cravings question is you have to find out what triggers the cravings in you and block it. And you're still going to feel the cravings for a period of time, but they'll weaken quickly. But if you're still doing, say, keto sweets, you're probably still going to have some cravings. Now, there isn't anything wrong with the cravings or the keto sweets. If you're meeting your goals, if you have the energy levels, if you have the mental clarity, if you're losing the weight, or whatever your goals are, then keep doing what you're doing. If you're having the cravings and you are, making these keto desserts and, you're doing fine with them, then, and that's satisfying the cravings, that's okay. It's not what works for me, but, every one of us is biologically unique. What works for me may not work for you in exactly the same way, and what works for you may not work exactly the same for me. So it is a lot of finding out and experimenting and seeing what you can or can't do, to make things work for you. The second part of the Grain Brain book that I've been reading about inflammation focused a lot on gluten in particular, so wheat. It's something that, I never thought really affected me all that much. But it is something that I am more concerned about now, especially because with my job, I rely on my brain so heavily. I need to have good mental focus and skills, and I can't afford to damage my brain in any way. Um, so it's something that I think has been good for me. So I hope, Mohit, that answered the question for you and gives you something to, at least start with in your own experimenting. Another question came from Mark about whether or not we should be using microwaves, because microwave energy can damage the nutrients in food. And that's a really good question, because microwaves are so convenient and prevalent in our society. But I think I would turn the question around as to what kind of foods are you microwaving? Because the kind of foods we should be eating probably wouldn't be doing as well in the microwave anyways, right? So, scrambled eggs, fried eggs, sausage. Well, I guess, the sausage links could do okay in the microwave, right? And some of the pre-made patties. But when I make the sausages, like the breakfast sausages, I like to get the patties, particularly a brand called Swaggerty's. That's you can get at Sam's Club. And they have a very high fat to protein ratio, which is really good. So I will cook them in the pan. There'll be a nice layer of fat in the pan. Then I'll add butter, and then I'll add my eggs. And I'll scramble the eggs in all of that sausage fat and butter. And that'll be a very filling and satisfying meal. And that's something I really couldn't do in the microwave. The other, food I eat primarily is beef. I mean, ground beef is like a staple for this, right? And there's so much you can do with ground beef, but it's really difficult to cook ground beef in the microwave. So I think that if you're eating whole foods and you're maybe you're preparing them in advance, and then you want to reheat them later. I haven't found anything that really provides, definitive detail as to how much nutrition is lost from microwaving in terms of reheating food than in terms of just regularly cooking it. So I wouldn't be afraid of it right now, but I also don't use it all that much. I use it pretty sparingly, and it is just to reheat. So if I have cooked, say, 7 or 8 sausage links, the big Italian sausages, and I've got them I eat like 3, and the rest are in the refrigerator. Yeah, I'll stick them in the microwave for a minute, to reheat them, and then put my mustard or whatever on them and eat them the next day. And I think that's going to be fine. The meat, especially beef, is so nutrient dense anyways, and the nutrients in them are so bioavailable, especially compared to vegetables, that I think you're still going to end up getting more out of it if it's a meat product than you would if you were going, trying to microwave, say broccoli or something. Not my favorite thing. I'm really not a big vegetable fan myself, although, I will eat vegetables, especially if it comes with a meal. Um, so most times go out, there's going to be a salad involved. There's going to be some sort of vegetable involved. You know, um, so that's fine. And when I'm eating out with my Indian colleagues, if I'm with a group of them that are vegetarians, I'll eat vegetarian. And there's a lot of good vegetarian dishes that you can eat and still stay ketogenic. Uh, Paneer is a kind of thick cheese, like a cottage cheese, but it gets formed and fried. That is really good. And you mix that, cook it with spinach, pureed spinach and heavy cream, and that's called a palak paneer. That can be really good. There's a lot of really good cauliflower recipes out there that I've liked. And I've been seeing a lot on the Indian ketogenic Facebook groups. A lot of recipes coming out with cauliflower rice because rice is such a big staple. So it's becoming even widely accepted worldwide. So I will do things like that, from time to time if needed. It's just my natural preference right now is more protein and meat. So I don't have a definitive answer for you, Mark. I just have, my personal preference right now, I think, and I just couldn't find anything really definitive. There's a lot of conflicting stuff out there on it, as there is on a lot of things. So those are the questions that I have for today. I do appreciate you hanging in there with me, and if you do have any questions, leave comments, ask questions in the Facebook group. I do want the Facebook group to be a community where we can, feel free to ask questions, post pictures, and learn. We can do that through YouTube as well. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, post questions in the comments, and I'll get back to you in the next video if I possibly can. For right now, I thank you for watching Twin Tiers Keto.